Hey, this is Phil. I think this book club is a totally awesome idea. Really getting into it, and I guess we're at this part of the book where it talks about the practice. And my thoughts on it are this: the practice is not a program, so to speak. You know, when I used to go to AA and stuff, they used to say, you know, that we were going to work a program. You know, but to me, this practice is not quite like that. It's not about programming, but rather it's a liberation from the programming, right? Of all those beliefs that I've been indoctrinated with that fed that desire to go out and use or to engage in whatever unskilled behavior that I did. So it's not about the addition of more knowledge. It's not about programming or unprogramming. It's not about that, but it's more of a practice. And when I say the practice, I'd say it's the practice of life itself. It's a practice to live skillfully, in tune and sync with life. Sun Stang, I think he was like the third patriarch of Zen. He once said this. He said, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are infinitely set apart. If you wish to see truth, then hold no opinion for or against." So he says there's this great way in to live without preferences, and that great way is the great way to live. It's how to live life. The Taoist, you know, like Lao Tzu, he wrote the Tao Te Ching. The word Tao means the way, you know. So we're talking about a way to live, and without preferences. Without preferences. Does that mean that I won't like some things and some things I will like? No, it isn't that like that. But it's more of a dogmatic insistence that things be a certain way, right? And that comes from desires. It comes from a desire to think I have to be in control, you know, of stuff, rather than living comfortably with ambiguity and certainty and indefinability. You know, to live in the mystery and be comfortable with that in a spirit of trust, where I'm okay with what's happening without going good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, you know. And there's a wisdom that comes from that mindset of being okay with things without having to know them, you know, to know the end from the beginning, and to where we see things like children do, you know, for the first time every time. So along with this practice, the chapter talks about inquiry. So we practice inquiry into the validity of those things that we hold to be dear as truth. Even if we've invested most of our lifetimes in defending these ideas and beliefs, we learn to judge non-judgmentally and to look at the stuff we're believing and what those beliefs do to us and for us. So it's a way to look at our beliefs, to look at the things that we think are true, and see what that belief does to and for us, both individually and corporately. You know, because desire comes from sort of a belief at its root. When we go all the way down and look at where does the desire spring from, it springs from a belief. If I think that doing coke or drinking booze will benefit me in some way, that belief that it will benefit me or make me happy will give rise to the desire to obtain it and do it. Yet if deep down in a gut level I don't believe that, and if I don't hold that to be true, then naturally I won't have that desire to engage in that kind of unskillful acquisition and behavior. So through the process of inquiry, I'm looking at my will. I'm looking at the desires, and this is where a renunciation takes part in this thing. The renunciation, I've talked to people and they think it's a way. I renounce you, like the Christians would go. I renounce you, devil. As if it's through some force of power, and it's not about that at all. I believe that it's more about. It's not a force of willpower, but it's a letting go of the willpower. It's not about ambition, but more about resolve. When I surrender, I'm done with. I'm resolved. It's over. Ambition, I'm fighting with it, and as long as I'm fighting with it, it's still there, right? I can't fight with it if it's, So what I found is my contention with the desires only strengthens them, but if I surrender them and look and practice that inquiry, I get relief from them. So this renunciation is more about acceptance, of life on its terms. If I had to, it's about letting the feelings and thoughts come to me without labeling them as going right, wrong, good, bad, and then contending with them based off those judgments of being good or bad, So it's just watching the feelings, watching the thoughts, and witnessing them rather than making judgments about them, and from those judgments engaging in contention with them. To me, the renunciation is more about letting everybody have a mind and feelings of their own, including me, and no longer beating me or anybody else up for what I think and feel. Because if I can witness it rather than try to judge it and pass sentence on it, I don't have to dope myself up or take booze or do something to change it. And when I do take booze or dope, I'm forcing change through that process of ingesting those chemicals or whatever. So what renunciation does is it invites me to explore these feelings and thoughts rather than try to correct them. I don't start with correcting. I start with looking. Half the problems I've had in life is when I try to correct first and look later. But when I can look without that impulse to correct, that compulsion to correct, what I find out is there's really nothing to correct. It's just thinking and feeling. It isn't right or wrong, So it's just stuff that comes and goes if I let it. All the feelings come, they go. The thoughts come, they go. As long as I don't attach myself to them. What causes suffering is not my thinking and feeling, but rather it's not being aware that that's what I'm doing, that I'm thinking and feeling. And when that happens, when I'm thinking and feeling without being aware of it, I think that I know rather than know that I think. And there's a difference, yeah. There's a difference between thinking that I know something and knowing that I think something, right? Meditation helps me to witness that thinking and feeling as it's happening real time and see them for what they are rather than identify as being them, When I'm experiencing anger, for example, I can go, I feel angry. I feel angry. Rather than say that I am angry, right? It's not what I am, it's what I'm feeling. What I am is what's feeling the anger. It's not the anger. Yeah, what I am is what's fueling the anger. It's not the anger, right? So I see things like this. When I see things like this, I see things more the way they are than rather thinking that they are what I think. And I can begin to separate actuality from my perception of it. Because there's actuality, and then there's my perception of actuality. There's the part of me that feels angry, and the part of me that feels it, not the part that, I'm not it. So when I can do this, I make space. When I can say, hey, this is just the way I'm looking at things, I make space to correct my vision, to correct those beliefs when I don't imagine that they are what I'm seeing. If I think I'm right, you can't teach me shit. You can't teach me anything. But if I'll entertain that idea through the inquiry that I'm not altogether right, that I'm just seeing things a different way, then I open up the possibility and the probability to receive correction and get back on track when I'm off. This is why I take the things that I learned from my meditation inquiry and I share them with the Sangha. I share stuff just like I'm sharing with you now. And this helps me to see a different view. Because a lot of times the things I take to be true are nothing more than stories I'm spinning in my head. I'm putting together little thoughts and compiling them and confabulating some sort of a story to where I think I know what other people think. You think this, you think that, you always do this, you always do that, and I'm pointing that finger out there, right? And that's because I think I know something rather than know that I think something. Yeah. So but if I practice this way of living without preferences and looking deeply, what happens is I begin to grow aware, I grow compassionate, and I grow connected with the body of humanity that's here. And that's why I think I'm here today. I think I'm here for that. I'm not here to acquire possessions or prestige or power. I'm not here to accumulate that stuff and identify myself with that stuff. I'm here to grow compassionate, aware, and connected. I think that's why I'm here on this planet right now. That's why I have the trials that I do, is to learn to grow out of them, to see what clinging to possessions and money and power do, and how that hurts me down at a deep level. And seeing that, I learn to surrender those things rather than attach myself to them. And when I see the futility of attaching myself to that sort of stuff like money and power and prestige, then I can have those things without being attached to them. I can have those things without them having me. So they in themselves, power and money and prestige, there's nothing good or bad about them, but it's my attachment to them that causes the issues. And what the practice is teaching me today is to live in contentment without preferences about how much of that stuff I got. This thoughts I've got for today. Thanks again, Tom, for starting the book club. I'm really looking forward and participating further. And I do appreciate all the other people's insight and inquiry. It helps me a lot. Thanks.